Hi, I'm Bob Behnken. I am the Joint Operations Mission Commander for NASA's SpaceX Demo 2 mission. So Doug Hurley and I are about to take NASA's SpaceX Demo 2 mission to the International Space Station. During that mission, we'll perform some checkouts, everything from a response to a fire on board to flying close to the International Space Station manually. We'll make sure all those systems are working during the test flight so that the future missions will have them available even if they don't plan to utilize them. We're hopeful that future crews on Dragon vehicles headed to NASA space station aren't cursing our names because we accepted some feature that was complicated and hard to train and in the end hard to operate. In the Air Force environment, flight test environment, there's always a balance of managing risk as you go forward to execute a test point and figuring out a way to collect the data. And do that in the calm, cool, collected kind of test environment with experienced folks before a pilot ends up someplace a little bit more complicated with a lot less resources. My role for a space mission is very much the same. My career at NASA has kind of spanned a couple of decades at this point. I arrived with the class of 2000, went through the training program, primarily focused on the space shuttle and the International Space Station, learning those systems through the assembly process, which was a little bit like where we were with Dragon in the early days, because space station kept changing and you had to stay up with it. After that, I was eventually assigned to a series of kind of training activities, both as a long-duration crew member and then flip-flopped over and flew a couple of shuttle missions, both on Endeavour. After that, I came back and kind of worked up the leadership chain through station operations, deputy chief, and then chief of the astronaut office. One of my goals was to try to get as many astronauts off to Kazakhstan so they would appreciate the day when we got to launch again from the Florida coast. Probably two things that jump out to me as kind of big wins. One is associated with having a high enough fidelity from a training perspective. Both Doug and I can sit in a capsule, we can put on suits, and we can go through a situation or a scenario where the suits are going to inflate to try to protect us from whatever situation is developing on board the vehicle. And I think one of our biggest accomplishments was a tool to be able to plan our own way out of orbit back to Earth. And we had to come up with a way that didn't break the software allocation that was out there. And we just had the big picture of, okay, how does the crew just get home if they end up in this situation? How does the crew get home if they end up in this situation? When they were able to flip that switch and not count how many failures it took to get there, but accept that let's figure out the easiest way to provide that capability, and they got on board with it. That was the aha moment. You don't necessarily have to save the mission with the crew, but you need to save the crew with the crew is kind of the mindset that we've put out there. It's really kind of designed that launch day is kind of relaxed. So we'll get up, have a little bit of exercise probably, or breakfast and then some exercise, be able to do some last minute phone calls. We'll probably have lunch, review, weather briefing of some sort to understand what our weather's going to look like. We'll hear anything associated with the vehicle, kind of technical detail wise. We'll get a little bit of an early read on that before the formal process of getting a suit on and then heading out to the launch pad. For me, having launched a couple times on vehicles, the second time was definitely different than the first time in terms of relaxation associated with the mission. You're doing that for the first time, you can feel a little bit guilty of, hey, should I study one more thing, or is there one more piece of information I should get? So that's definitely different between where I was on my first flight and where I'm at right now. On a deeply personal level, I'm really excited that my son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being an astronaut has been a little bit of an abstraction thing for him because he's seen me do it in old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real. I think it's important for the U.S. to continue to have these exciting things out there from a technical, engineering, science, challenge perspective, because it motivated me to go into this sort of a career, and I know that it motivates other children in. And so I'm excited to bring it back to the Florida coast, or be a part of bringing it back. I'm just one piece of a multi-thousand member team that's going to hopefully pull this off in short order. It's inspiring to me, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
Subscribe for more space.